Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Sports. I have with me once again in the house, all the way from Baltimore, USA, Coach Chris. I did have him in the room. Yeah, he's in the room. Coach Chris, how are we doing?
Man, we're lovely today. Lovely today. How about yourself, sir?
I'm good. We had a conversation off here earlier about a video and an approach that I was going to take this week that probably would have shocked a lot of our viewers. And the idea I had was probably pretty interesting, but maybe the timing wasn't right. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think what you were thinking was probably along the correct lines, but I just think timing's everything sometimes. So I agree with your thoughts.
George Groves, everything's for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason, brother. You know what I'm saying? Everything happens for a reason.
Okay, so I really want to get into this. I don't often do these reviews of interviews, but this interview with the legendary Poison Junior Jones, three-weight world champion, and he really should be a three-weight world champion because they said he won the IBO at featherweight. Today, the IBO recognizes a belt, so it should be.
I mean, he beat my guy Marco Antonio Barrera, as we talked about. Somebody that I have immense respect for. So Marco Antonio Barrera, easily one of my favorite fighters to watch, hands down. So because he beat him twice, right? So Junior Jones is definitely a solid champ, and anything he says, we got to kind of listen to it, and he's talking. He knows a lot.
And he's two-time Hall of Famer in two different places. He's a Hall of Famer, and not many boxers can even claim that. Very
true. Very true. Hey, I'm not a Hall of Famer anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
What about in your household?
I don't know. I'm still trying to put together a couple of Pro Bowl years, all pro years back to back. We'll see. It's not set in stone. It's not done. I might become a Hall of Famer here sooner or later. And boxing is good about that. They do respect the people that put their time in and really fought. You know what I'm saying? At the end of their careers, as far as like with the Hall of Fame and stuff. So,
on a side note, I was offered curry goat and rice, and when they said the word goat to me. GOAT means greatest of all time.
Right. I was about to say, I hope you got some of the curry goat, man. I'm some curry goat right now, man.
I said, no goat for me. It's okay. No goat for me. Nah.
I got my wife's got a homegirl, right? And she's one of the best cooks I've ever been around.
Yeah.
And she made this goat one time and had us in here beefing with each other over who was going to eat the goat. Like, you ate all this already. Well, she's my friend, not even your friend for real. So I don't even know why you're eating it. Yeah, so definitely go with the goat. Yeah.
No, I slipped the goat and veggie instead, but quite nice. Anyway, so we're going to review the Junior Jones interview. And for those who haven't seen the interview, please do check it out. It's on the channel. So the first thing we spoke about was Junior Jones and Lomachenko. Junior Jones, when I interviewed him previously, he wasn't a big fan of Lomachenko. He said that he thought Lomachenko was average, good at best, but not pound for pound, the way that people were rating him up. And he said that was really to do with more PR and, just trying to get him up there. But he wasn't all those things they put him out to be. And when the time came for him to fight a real killer, he didn't go up. He said, the shoulder injury and this and that, but that's just to cover him up. But ultimately, he wasn't that great. He can only fight one way. And he also went on to say that had he fought back in the day around Junior's time, he would have got wiped out real quick. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's absolutely correct on that. Everything he said. First of all, Lomachenko had he has what's called a very privileged career. He has that golden runway where he can just land, and like anything he does well is going to be blown up and accentuated and shouted from the rooftops. Anything he doesn't do well or anything that might be a misgiving about what he does, they're going to hide it. They're going to shuffle to the side. We're talking about somebody who fought all those amateur fights. I mean, he fought as an amateur when he was like 27 years old. So he's fighting against 18 and 19-year-olds, guys that aren't even halfway grown. He's older than them. So he was really a professional as an amateur fighter, to be honest. And then, because, I mean, who's paying for all of that? He's in Ukraine, so who knows if the Ukrainian government's paying, whatever, right? So then he becomes a pro. It's like he comes in and gets a championship shot right away, loses to Orlando Salido, who we all know is not a great fighter at all. He's never rematched that man, never fought him again, never righted that wrong. So immediately to other champions, that's BS. You know what I'm saying? Like, you take a loss, you're supposed to go ahead and handle that, fix it. You know what I'm saying? And he had no intentions of doing that. Fought Gary Russell Jr., beat Gary Russell Jr., good fight. Moves up to 130. Top Rank pulls all kinds of shenanigans to help him get these fights and fight people that he really he fought Nicholas Walters. Nicholas Walters hadn't had a fight in like 19 months, ended up taking less money than he was initially offered, hasn't fought since, just quit. I always had a problem with the whole Lomachenko forcing opponents to quit. I don't see how you do an 8-week training camp and quit 12 minutes into a bout. So you're going to sacrifice your eating to make 130, sacrifice your eating, train all those hours every day to just quit. Something about that doesn't really smell right to me. He could have fought Guillermo Rigondeaux at 126 or 122, wouldn't do it. Even though Guillermo Rigondeaux really is that size, he's not a 130-pounder. Made Rigondeaux jump up all those weight classes to fight him. He quit too. His career just seemed, but when he got dropped by Linares, and Linares is past it, he was a good fighter in his time, but Linares has lost and been knocked out. When he got dropped by Linares, who kind of faded in that fight, it's like, all right, well, he's not that good, Then he fought Luke Campbell, was getting touched. Could have, lost. Could have been, that fight could have gone a couple of different ways. Then he finally gets in the ring with Teofimo Lopez. He ducks Devin Haney, drops the WBC belt to pick up some franchise belt or whatever, that the French fries title or whatever you want to call that. Then he goes into the ring with Teofimo Lopez, who proceeds to completely outbox him for the first 6 or 7 rounds of the fight. He lands 7 power punches in 6 rounds. Looks like a complete stinker of a performance, just absolutely embarrassing. Then he comes on and wants to fight at the end. Then he loses. Then he has all these excuses, and he claims he was robbed. Now he's showing pictures of his surgery. I think we're just kind of finding out what kind of professional he is and what kind of fighter he is. Now they're talking about him moving back down to 130, 120. I just, I've never really fell in love with the angles and the quickness, and I don't.
When you look at guys like Colonel Whitaker, those angles that Whitaker would give you, but he'll give you speed and power, knock guys out, and there was a class about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Pernell Whitaker was a much better boxer than Vasily Lomachenko.
You look at, defensively, you look at someone like Boyd.
Yeah.
Pretty Boyd when he started his career. I mean, that man was a beast when he started his career. He wanted to
look. Pretty Boy Floyd beat up everybody. From when he started at 130, right? So 130, he beat up everybody. Any and everybody who had a belt, who acted like they wanted to be a belt holder, every fighter. He fought every fighter.
Even Jay Tony from middleweight goes up to heavyweight, still shifting, slipping, moving, hitting guys on counters, knocking guys out with counter shots. You know what I mean? Yeah. Real class.
Lomachenko wasn't of that help. Lomachenko, he was a good fighter. I think some of the things they did to help him in his career and promote him probably stunted his growth as a professional. First of all, definitely did not need to be an amateur in his early 20s. You know what I'm saying? That's not helping you develop your game. You need to be fighting against pros, fighting 4-round fights, 6-round fights, 8-round fights, building up the same way. It almost makes it seem like I don't. That's phony. You know, you if you're 26 competing against 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by any of that, because I know when I was 26-year-old me, I don't need to be competing against no 19-year-olds. I'd have beaten every 19-year-old football player that would have thought about trying to play football against me. So, and I'm not that good. So it's like, you know, I just don't really, I don't find much respect in, oh, he's 400 amateur wins. I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's grown up fighting against kids, to me.
Okay, we move on. We've got to move on. We're trying to get this in within under 40 minutes. Next topic, he talked about Tank Davis. You know, one thing I liked about Junior Jones, he said, look, I don't like the kid. There is being cocky, and there's being arrogant, and there's being disrespectful. He's disrespectful, and I ain't got time for disrespectful. I haven't got time for him. However, that doesn't mean the boy can't fight.
Right.
The boy can fight. He says, so the Cruz can fight too. And he rates his punching power. But he said we'll have to see kind of what's going down with that.
It's going to be a big fight this weekend. He's right. I mean, I've never met Tank. Actually, you know what? I think I met Tank Davis years ago at an amateur fight. Years ago. He might have been 8 or 9 or so if he was boxing then. If he's the person I'm thinking it was. I wouldn't know to remember. But if you've been a champ, and I mean, I think this is probably with all boxing, right? Yeah. If you grow up in boxing and you've been a champ since you were 9, right? You're the best 9-year-old in the country. You're the best 10-year-old in the country, the best 11-year-old in the world, 12-year-old in the world. There's going to be some cockiness. There's going to be a level of arrogance that you have to have just to be good at your job, right? I mean, to be a boxer, to be a championship level boxer, I would imagine that there's a level of, you know, they got their teams and the entourage. It's all about them and things like that regular, you know, stiffs like us don't get to enjoy. So I'm sure there's a bit of arrogance that comes with it. So I'm sure now that he's not a boxer anymore, he meets this guy and he's a young kid and he's full of himself. I'm sure he's like, oh man, who's this kid think he is? Doesn't he, you know? And that's just kind of the circular nature of sports, you know, because soon it'll be Tank. You know, like we all know that these careers don't last forever, right? So it'll be 45, 50 years old, and they'll be like, oh, Tank Davis, 2-time, 3-time champ, blah, 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 blah. What do you think of James Jones in the he's an upcoming featherweight. Oh, I met him. He's pretty cocky, blah, blah, blah. You know, and it'll just be the circle of life there. But he did say something very true. Tank Davis does have real life power in his hands. He's a lefty. He looks like he's in shape.
He did state we don't know how hard he punches in a new weight division he's talking about. And he was also talking about the fact that does his punch travel to world-class fighters? And Santa Cruz knows world-class.
I don't know. I think so, man. Like he punches hard for a little dude, man. Like he's landed some jabs and some hooks in some of those fights, and it's like,
but look at the Gamboa fight. I brought the Gamboa fight for him. And Gamboa's shot to bits.
The beard on him too. Plus, I don't know about his training for that fight. Like I said, with a lot of these young guys, we're just gonna have to see. Leo Santa Cruz has a beard. You know, Leo Santa Cruz has been a big time fighter for a long time. I mean, he's lost what? He's lost once to Abner Mares, and then he went back and rematched him and got the W. And he beat Frampton. So he ducked Gary. I'm hesitant to give Leo a lot of props because he openly ducked Guillermo Rigondeaux, just openly refused to fight him. He also refused to fight Gary Russell Jr., which is also just really, really unfortunate for the sport. But at the same time, he's a viable fighter. This is the best, you know, competition that Tank's faced. And we're looking at a great night of boxing coming up here, a great day of boxing this Saturday, you know, with Chisora Usyk and then the Tank Davis fight. There's another good fight on that co-main too, the Tank Davis fight. So who is it? Damn.
Inoue? Is it Inoue?
Yeah. No, Monster is not fighting. No. Top Rank wouldn't put him on the same day. because he's a top-ranked fighter, right?
Okay.
So he'd be on ESPN. They've changed that date. Can't remember who's fighting.
Okay.
I honestly can't because I'm excited about the Tank Leo Santa Cruz fight. I'm very interested in Usyk Chisora. I'm gonna just put that out there. I'm very interested in that. I'm actually trying to work my entire day to make sure I'm here to see that fight. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So the next thing he spoke about was, as I was talking to him, I mentioned the thing about Mark Breland. He said to me, "Oh, I was just talking to Mark Breland yesterday," which of course led me into asking him the question about Mark Breland and him being fired for jumping in and stopping the fight with Deontay Wilder. Do you remember what he said about that?
Yeah, man. Well, he was talking about how, Wilder don't listen. He's like, Wilder don't really want to listen. Wilder beats by his own drum, does his own thing. And you can't really hold him responsible for that. He talked about a couple different things with Wilder and like the Fury fight and things like that. Honestly, I heard what he said, and obviously that's his perspective, being in boxing and able to talk to Mark Breland, something that I have never done. I've never spoken to him as a trainer or anything like that.
Yeah.
So obviously, having just spoke to Mark Breland, he'll have that side of the story, and he'll tell that side of the story for Mark. And they're in that same age bracket. You know what I'm saying? A little bit. So they might have known each other in the amateurs. It might have been a previous relationship.
Yes, they're pretty close. They're good friends.
Yeah, they're good friends. And, one thing about Wilder that we got to remember is, we all talk about his awkwardness and all that kind of stuff. Got to remember, this guy started boxing as a grown-up. He was a grown-ass man. He was a grown man who became a boxer. He didn't start boxing. He was 9 or 10 and have a trainer, and the trainer, was a father figure the entire time while he was growing up through adolescence. We're talking about somebody who was a grown father of a couple kids, one of which had spina bifida, you know what I'm saying? And that's what forced him to go to a boxing ring. So his whole perspective when it comes to the sport, when it comes to a trainer relationship, is probably going to be a little bit different or a lot different than all these other trainers out there. You know what I'm saying? That understanding, we're only hearing, that side of the story. And it's I think there's probably some truth to it. And I would agree. He needs a trainer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, hell, man, you could ask my wife right now. It's like, yo, Wilder's with the same team he had when he started boxing as an amateur when he first walked to a ring. And she would say, yeah, probably needs to get better trainers. Like, there are professionals that train heavyweight boxers, that train championship boxers. That's what they do. Ronnie Shields, Buddy McGirt,
James
Stately McKinley. You know who else is a good trainer? And I didn't think about this before. The guy that Tim Bradley had all those years, Hispanic dude.
Not Manny Robles, is it? Not Manny Robles.
No, not Manny Robles. No. It's Diaz.
Not Ramirez. I know you're talking about. See now, he's got grayish sort of.
Yeah, he's got the grayish hair a little bit. Yeah.
Guy, right?
Tim Bradley was a badass boxer. Badass. Like when Tim Bradley was Tim Bradley, Desert Storm, Tim Bradley, before he got into all those weird Pacquiao fights and stuff, Tim Bradley was beating the brakes off of everybody. You know what I'm saying? And like boxing, staying relevant. So I just think, it's unfortunate. We don't really know what happened. That's between them, as far as like his trainer and stuff like that. But Junior just gave us a little insight to a little bit of how the relationship works. And I mean, this could have been this. I don't think that fight did it. This probably has been happening that way. This has probably been working that direction. Change is hard, for everybody involved. But we wish Mark Breland the best. Hopefully he can get on with another fighter and take them to the same heights that he got. I mean, you can't, 5 years heavyweight champ, 10 title defenses, for a guy that didn't box as a teenager.
Well, according to Junior Jones, the thing is the boy can't fight. He can punch, and he's relied on that punch all his career, but he can't fight a lick.
I don't think that's not possible. You can't win 35. I mean, the heavyweight division always is going to struggle for comp because it's one class for everybody 200 and so pounds and up. And it's not a lot of comp. There's never a lot of heavyweight comp, except for brief stretches in time, like in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, when you had Bo, Holyfield, Tyson, Leonard Lewis. You had a lot of it wasn't. He was a fringe guy. You had Tommy Morrison, who was a fringe guy. Jamil McClain. So you had guys. You know, the Klitschko's were coming. Came back. You know, then you got the 70s, obviously, which was the golden era of heavyweight boxing. But other than that, it's always kind of hit or miss. The little divisions are always going to have competition because you got guys moving up. You got guys that can make weight and they stay at a division. And you got guys with the ability to move up and down in weight. So, you know, you're going to have those chances for like a Manny Pacquiao career, a Floyd Mayweather career, a Roy Jones Jr. career, where you start at one weight class, dominate, move up, dominate, move up, dominate. If you're a heavyweight, you're just a heavyweight. That's it. You know, that's it. That's the you fight who you fight. You know, you can't dare. These heavyweights are killers, man. I mean, I met Hasim Rahman years ago, and I tell you what, man, I got pretty big hands. Like I got 9.5-inch hands or so from finger to thumb. Yeah. You know, from pinky to thumb. Yeah. He grabbed my hands like I was 9 years old, man, and his fingers were. I mean, like, let me tell you something. I ain't fighting him. I'd go get this tone out this closet, man. Like, look, like it blows me away. People get on the internet talk about that these guys, these heavyweights are bums. I'm like, bums. Let me tell you, this guy could drink a fifth of tequila straight, and he still will get up out of his chair and send you to the hospital. Like, let me tell you something. As I'm shaking his hand, I'm like, yeah, champ, I'm from Baltimore too, man. Great to meet you, blah, blah, blah. I'm just thinking, holy smokes. There's no, like, if you wanted to fight me, it'd be like, look, you stay right here. I'll be right back. We'll go get this gun, and I'm coming back.
He grabbed Lennox and pushed him to the floor.
Let me tell you something, man. Like, these guys will hurt you, man. Like, look, Deontay Wilder, you can say he wants to box, all that. But let somebody tell you Deontay Wilder got a problem with you and he want to fight you. You'd be scared out your damn mind. Like, oh my God, this guy's 6'8". He's gonna hit me from across the damn room. So, I mean, I just think like when it comes to technical boxing, sometimes technical boxers, especially your little guys that were technicians of the sport, really they had to be functional. Didn't have the wiggle room. You know what I mean? They're always going to look at somebody like Wilder and see him as flawed because everything they see in him is going to they're going to just see the footwork. You know, they're going to see the mistakes. You know, honestly, if Wilder just stayed behind his jab, I think he needs to work on his footwork a lot more. I think the footwork is the one thing that's going to hinder him as his career as he gets older. You know what I mean? Almost like it did with Roy Jones Jr. at the end of his career. But these older guys, these boxing technicians, they're always going to see Wilder as flawed. We got to just accept Wilder for what he is, man. He's an
You've got to accept him for what he is. The big right hand is what he's got, and he understands distance and timing.
Right. And yeah. And I mean, I was talking with somebody about this the other day. It's like, you know, because we don't know if he had started boxing earlier, who's to say he would still have this power?
Junior Jones said if he got rid of Jay Diaz, who is not a boxing trainer, but his best friend, get rid of Jay Diaz, bring back Mark Breland and bring in Tony Shields. And Wilder would listen, he'd be a heck of a fighter.
I don't think Jay Diaz really, I mean, Breland's the trainer, right? In this whole thing. Breland's really the trainer. I think Diaz is more of his guy that handles the day-to-day stuff that like needs to be handled, right? As opposed to, you know, sparring partners, training, who's ordering the training table, who's ordering the food, where are we training at, who's going to stay where, who's flying in from where, who's making sure these guys get paid their money, who's making sure everything is everything. And he's known Jay Diaz since he started, so it would make sense to have him around, have him, you know, I mean, apparently they need multiple people to do the mitts because he keeps injuring these guys, hitting them, even with the glove, with the big 20-ounce gloves on. So, but that's the thing, is he is a grunt. I mean, you got to remember now, you know, he's a grown man who started boxing. You know, like as a former football player, I can tell you there's just certain things that offensive linemen do. We've been doing it ever since we was little. That's what you do when you play football. But if I'd started playing football at 21 years old, 22 years old, maybe I don't want to do that no more. Why do I do that to be successful? I just walked up in here one day and started playing football. Like, I don't need to do that. Like, to me, I grew up practicing twice a day in the training camp. That's football. They don't do that nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. I'm looking like, how the hell do you get in shape to play football without 2 days?
Yeah.
You know, but they do it, you know? So we're going to just have to kind of take him for what he is. I mean, hell, look at it like this. Mm-hmm. If something had changed in the way he had brought up in the game of boxing, it would have either been one of 2 ways. Either he wouldn't have the skills and the power that he shows now, or we're talking about somebody that might have killed a couple people in the ring.
Yeah, you're right.
Because if he can barely hit you on the tip of the forehead with a right hand and send the complete room spinning, and then he can finish the fight off, what would happen if he could actually really come in flush with a 1-2 like Tyson? Might have killed a couple people by now. So, you know, it's just one of those things we just got to be like, man, it is what it is. You know?
That's what it is. He also mentioned that Malik Scott, he says that was a BS move. It was all about having yes men around Wilder for him to keep around with BS. I agree with him. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I don't, you know, I'm hesitant to say that Malik Scott can't be a trainer because I don't know his boxing mind.
He's got a great boxing mind, but
I don't know how much time he spends in trying to be a good coach. You know, I don't know, you know, because if you got your guy Malik Scott there and you got Breland there and they're saying they're saying different things to you, too many cooks can spoil the soup, right? Plus that's drama, and you know, and you don't need that in your.
It seems like a good boys network now. You've got Malik Scott, that's best friends with Wilder, and then you've got JD as his best friends with Wilder. So you know, they're good friends and best friends and all buddies. But I don't know if buddies is business.
That is true. It's not sounding like it's not what I want to hear. You know, honestly, you know, as a fan of Deontay Wilder, you know, obviously, you know, I like him as a dude. He seems like a pretty decent cat to me. And obviously, as a boxer, he's box office with all the knockouts, and it's fun to watch. You know, absolutely. So we don't want to. It doesn't sound. It's not sounding like the ideal situation. But you know what? You know, we'll just have to see if Junior's right. You know what I mean? Honestly, because you know, boxers change trainers all the time. That happens in the sport. You know, relationships get stale. Lennox Lewis left who he was with to get with Emmanuel Stewart. We saw how that worked out, you know.
Pepper Correa was no more than a cheerleader for Lennox Lewis. He's British and he's bad. He's British and he's bad. Okay.
Yeah, but he got with Emmanuel Stewart.
Come on, Lennox. Come on, down to cut back on the right hand. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, he got with Emmanuel Stewart, Crunk Jim, and you know, the rest is history. He went on to become undisputed title. And you know, this is a guy who was getting ducked too. So we don't know what the hell's happening. We don't know. I mean, that's the thing. You know, because there was inklings of this happening that he was going to leave Breland. So Breland probably hasn't really been involved in whatever the heck they got going on this entire time. And because Wilder hasn't said anything to anybody, and you know, I mean, you got his buddy, his guy Tay Jones. He's been doing some interviews with some YouTube channels out there, just kind of giving the inkling what's happening. I think he was on Boxing Ego, and like Wilder was like, he was at Wilder house. He like walked behind and like was in the fridge getting something to eat out the fridge. It's like, God damn, he's over at this man's house, and you can't get him on the phone. You can't get an interview. So
it's a gagging order. I'm convinced it's a gagging order. When I get Stacey McKinney, we'll find out. It's a gagging order. He's been gagged.
So like, who would have gagged him then? Like, would it have been like, is he got a lawsuit?
His manager may have gagged him. His manager may have gagged him, or the higher ups may have gagged him. Al Heyman may have gagged him. It's a gag order. That's how gag order will work. Because you know, he's just gone silent. That's a gag order.
Yeah, it's been and boxing operates in such the shadows, man. It's just we don't have any clue of what's happening. We'll have to maybe just wait for the 30 for 30 for all this, because you know how I feel about the fight and the gloves.
Yeah.
It just seemed really, that the whole situation just seemed really weird. And now Wilder's not talking to you in interviews. He's a talkative guy, man. He's sold himself to this point.
But then Junior Jones, you ain't got nothing to talk about. You've been talking all that crap all the time, and now you get stopped. You ain't got nothing to talk about. So that's it. You ain't got nothing to talk about. What's he going to talk about?
And that is the truth. He really doesn't have much to say. All he could really say is, I'll see you when we fight again, But I mean,
he talked about the quick get through the costume. He said, "Hey, that's BS about the costume. You sure you would have test the costume before, the day before? So we'll skip past that." And also the expired contract he mentioned. He said, "How long does the contract last?" He said, "At least a year." So until it's signed, how can a contract expire?
I don't think so. I've never believed that. I've never thought that a contract would expire. I mean, we've seen fights happen where the rematch is a year off, a year away, over a year away. And, no one seems to need to take tune-up fights in between and stuff like that. I think it's a little bit more about Tyson Fury and money, wanting to make money, wanting to earn money. Got to remember, man, this guy has 2 freaking promoters, yo. Like 2 promoters, 4 trainers, 5 cut. Like, how much money did he actually get? Like, we know how much his purse was, but how much of that purse actually made its way to him? I'm sure more of it made its way to him than I made last year. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, I don't got 5 kids. I don't got a family, want money. I don't have mortgages all over the world. I don't have houses in Vegas and houses in England. So I don't know how all that works. All I know is the more people you got working for you, the more people you got to pay. And the fact that he's sitting here wanting to fight some guy, I mean, anybody, it just doesn't make any sense. It's weird. It's beneath the belt he holds, and he's supposed to be the #1 heavyweight in the world, which is another weird conversation that we can have another day. And he needs to fight Carlos. It just doesn't.
They agreed, or is it going to be?
There's rumors going around. It's Takam or some other guy. It just doesn't fit the narrative for what a heavyweight champ should be looking to do, man. He should be looking to finish this whole thing off, fight on pay-per-view again, get another big check. I mean, I want to see you walk down Wilder again. You know what I mean? I want to see this new Fury, because obviously, right, the old feather-fisted, herky-jerky, fake out Fury, obviously that's a thing of the past. Obviously now he's a bone-crushing power puncher now because he's with Sugar Hill. So
we'll see. We'll see what he does against Caballero, who's got a good chin, never been knocked out, got a good chin. He's got better. I think he's got as good feet or better feet than Fury. Caballero's dangerous. He's dangerous. People are looking past him like he's a joke. They want to watch the Caballero fight. He's dangerous, Caballero.
I'm also wondering here too, because the WBC hasn't said anything. Will the belt be up for this fight? Because if he has a contracted rematch that he's skipping out on, I mean, look, we fought for my championship belt, and I have a rematch clause in the fight. You're gonna just take my belt and run and put it up against some other guy?
You got to remember, a lot of these media outlets, you got to remember, they are controlled. It's all under one sort of organization. You got to remember these media outlets. So they only report what they're told to report. Do you understand? And they're exactly. So some of the stuff that comes out of the media is absolute BS.
It's ridiculous. We got Stephen A. Smith yesterday. He said that Errol Smith shouldn't be on the pound for pound rankings. Errol Spence, who's fighting, he fought Sean Porter last year.
Yeah.
And he hasn't fought. Well, he hasn't fought because of COVID-19. He would have fought earlier this year.
He's unified. Charlo's unified. Pound for pound.
Charlo's not even on the list. Neither Charlo.
Don't worry about them. They've got a gen. You know them guys. Got a Steve, what the hell did Stephen A. Smith do? Forget Stephen A. Smith, man.
Yeah, like no Charlo. My man's the unified champion.
When you look at that stuff, and you've got logic to say you've got unified champions, unbeaten unified champions, and they're not in the pound for pound top 10 list, right?
Yeah,
you look at that just tells you agenda. So the agenda it's not about what the truth is or what is right. It's about what we want to say. So it's down to Stephen A. Smith what the hell he wants to talk about. But I never knew Stephen A. Smith was a boxing expert. You see, forget Stephen A. Smith, man.
Yeah. This is part of what's wrong with boxing and why boxing can't get out of its own way in this country, Ingram. Like, boxing was a bigger sport in the 80s and 90s than it is now in America. And it's stuff like this. The truth just being hidden, you know, and wanting to promote fighters that aren't very good. Like, they wanted to promote Loma. Before Loma, it was Triple G. Before Triple G, Kovalev. Kovalev fought everybody, though. Kovalev didn't duck out smoke, so I'll give Kovalev the credit. Remember Nonito Donaire, Chocolatito, all these bums that could not really fight that well, that were okay, and they're just pushing it on you. They're the best. They're the best. Then they go out and get their head knocked off, and then you realize, you know, and they're just naming it like Monster Inoue. It's a good fight.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I will keep on saying it. You know, the way to find out if somebody's legit within boxing, legit, and are not going to subscribe to what the promoter wants, and they're not paid, or they haven't sold their soul, right? Or they haven't got to do something for their paymaster, is when you have to ask them to put down a top 10 list of fighters, and you see, oh, unified champion, unbeaten. Right. No, not there. Unified champion, unbeaten, not there. I
mean,
and then you see some of the crap that comes out of their mouth. These people, there's a lot of frauds within media, frauds. And who gives these people these titles? Like, oh, this guy's legit. I remember they were talking about Dan Raphael. Have you ever heard Dan Raphael break a fight down? Ever?
Terrible.
Have you asked Dan Raphael break a fight down for me? He scored a fight where Carson Jones was on the verge of stopping Margarito, right? And he said some nonsense about how Margarito was winning the fight. He was in total control. Margarito was about to get knocked out. Margarito was on his stool, got stopped, got up, commercial break came, and Margarito had his hands in the air. That was one of the biggest fastest in boxing I'd seen for ages.
Yeah, ESPN, you know, now that networks are, you know, majorly into the boxing game now, and they're pushing these agendas, and everybody wants to be everybody wants to have their own champion. It's just,
you know what? Consistency. Be consistent about what you do. Be consistent. Boxing fans, for the most part, are mugs. And people say to me, no, you're talking rubbish. Like, boxing fans are mugs because a man lies in your face 365 days a year, but when you look, you still think, oh, why did he do that? Why did he do that? The guy's a killer. But you're asking why he did that.
Right.
You
like
know,
Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn, like these guys just lie like every other word they like.
But media puts them up there. They're wonderful and great and fantastic and superb. And I like Eddie Hearn in England is like the second coming of Christ. You know, I wonder if his name is actually, I'm looking for his name in the Bible, because the way people, like, is he prime minister or something? Why is he, everything he says has got to be golden? I don't understand it. Well, like any promoters, they promote it regardless of whatever the promoter is. At the end of the day, they have to sell a product. Let's get this straight. A promoter is to sell a product, right?
Right.
You see, you've got promoters now within social media things. These guys, you know, they're going to get, as long as they get their free ticket, you know, their VIP pass, their hotel bill paid for, people was talking crap. And then someone came out and said, oh, yeah, I pay for the hotel room. Yeah, and I do this and that. I said, oh, now you're listening to me. These people think I must have just rolled out of a cave somewhere, right? It's common sense. These guys are getting paid, right? So they're not independent. No. I'm independent. Independent. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I can say what the heck I want, what I want, how I feel. You understand? They're trying to talk crap. Try them to talk independent. Get them to talk out about the promoters and see what happens.
Can't do it.
I mean,
look at how the whole thing played out. It seemed like there was like a media campaign against Wilder after he lost the fight. And I mean, that's one of the first things that kind of made it seem like it was kind of fixed, because it was like, okay, so you guys
the question, not about the puppet. Don't blame the puppet. Blame the puppet master. Once you understand the puppet master and who the puppet master are, because people will tell you that you've got choice. They sell it to you for choice. You can't have choice. The puppet master controls everything. He gives you blue, yellow, green, pink, orange, and you think, I've got all these choices. No, you haven't. The puppet master. And you foolishly go and say, so you go to these, look at these, there are other well-respected boxing writers that are not consistent. They've been there 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they're consistently putting out good content. But when these guys make a little bit of name for themselves, before you know it, they're affiliated with a promoter. I would respect these guys if you could go in, work for the promoter, as you do, but give a fair assessment of the fights and the fighters. That is what you call a true professional. But when you are basically saying what you want the promoter, doing what the promoter wants you to do, right? And you're basically meant to be the balancing act to tell us what's going on in the fight. It's a conflict of interest. And in boxing, conflict of interest is okay because it's boxing.
Conflict.
Right?
It's conflict.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and that's a big time question, man. Because I tell you what, and I saw that comment right there. That's very real, because these guys are doing it because they want access. Because without access, they don't have anything to write or anything to post about.
Well, we know that's not. We know that's not true. I ain't got no press pass. I just spoke to Junior Jones last night. I ain't got no press pass. James, I didn't have no press pass. I didn't have the press pass. I'll be talking to Leo Muhammad. I don't have no press pass. So
but you're grinding it out, man. You doing it from the mud, brother. See, everyone's not built like you, man. They're not built like you. And I tell you what, somebody like you could come over here to this country and give a fair and unbiased view on boxing over here in this country, and no one will be able to question where you were coming from because you're on the outside. It's like, you know what? It really doesn't matter that much to me anyway, right? Like, I'm not even from out here. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? Like, we definitely need people like yourself, independent, fully invested into the sport, have a love of the sport, have a love of what it takes to be at the best, and they can actually go out there and give the information to the masses. That's what will bring people back to the sport of boxing. I try to be as balanced as possible. There was something Gareth A. Davis said. I didn't get it at the time, but now he said to me, I said, Gareth, he said, do you like boxing? He said, yeah, of course I. What kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? And he went, I went, well, are you a fan of boxing? He goes, I'm not a fan of boxing. I'm a reporter. I can't be a fan because it's too involved. And I kind of looked at him and went, you prick. And then I looked at him and I thought, no, you've actually got a point. You've actually got a point. But then your actions don't coincide with what you said that. And I thought, yeah, you're an idiot. Then I thought to myself, no, well, you know what? I'm the idiot because I'm the guy that called him an idiot, but really I'm the idiot. But then I stopped again and thought, okay, let me watch Gareth A. Davis a bit more, for example. Let me watch him a little bit more. You see him every time there's an interview, flying in the background, photo bombing interviews, and hey, I'm here, it's me. And you do interviews as like, and you acting like a fan. And I'm like, but hold on, you said that you weren't. And then I click, you're at the fights. I get it now. Yeah, so all right, connection promoter, but all right, got you. Mm-hmm. So as much as you say that, you're not really an independent because you don't own the newspaper. The newspaper kind of owns you
where you go, what you report on, what you say. You've got an editor. You can't do anything, you know. So respect it, fair enough. But as long as the puppet master, the editor is the puppet master, you know. But the editor is on a puppetry himself because he's got people who are far higher up, who have an agenda with lots of money. Remember,
lots of money, lots of agendas out here, Ingram. You know, and it's just unfortunate because media is like that all over the place in a lot of different things now, and it just kind of leaves out like, well, who's really telling the truth? So we just really need people like yourself out here that are giving a fair, unbiased, like, you know, people that aren't owned, you know, they can give a fair assessment from their eyes what they're seeing, because like if you rely on guys like Stephen A. Smith and ESPN, you know, you got those, they're the people that are sitting there. They got people thinking that Manny Pacquiao is the welterweight champ of the world. And it's like, all right, he's a welterweight champ of the world, but Terence Crawford, but you know what? But along with the media pushing that narrative and Pacquiao avoiding those fights with those people, you know, he won't fight those guys. He fought Keith Thurman, took his belt from him. Okay, Keith Thurman was one of the last ones, but I mean, come on now. Like, you definitely should have fought Errol Spencer or Terence Crawford. You were on the same that fight. Terence Crawford not getting the Manny Pacquiao fight has caused irrevocable damage to his career. It's affected how much money he makes. It affects everything because now he doesn't have a big win, really. His biggest win is over.
Right.
Yeah, where, you know?
Well, I'm going to have to go. You know, I've got that YouTube meeting right now, so I'm going to have to go.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. And my meeting's literally 3 minutes with YouTube. I'm on this sort of like exclusive training with YouTube. I need it. I got exclusive training with YouTube, understanding algorithms and crap like that. So I'll come back after and see what they've got crafted up. But I will tell you one thing before I go. You know, on my other channel, I had 4 videos limited on monetization, and the 4 videos are just like normal videos, but they just flag them all. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, man. They
We'll talk about it another time. Yeah, right. So everybody, once again, thank you, Coach Chris, as always. Coach Chris, give it a quick shout out about where you at.
Hey man, so we got the group training, and we're also training. We got the group training for youth going on right now at my gym out here in Laurel. You can check us out on the web, www.win4results.com, and also can check me out on Instagram at Coach Chris Akweme on IG.
Very quickly before you end, you do weight training, right? As well.
Yeah, just training athletes right now, and then we got some stuff cracking with the federal government that we're hoping to be able to talk about real soon, and some stuff that we won't ever be able to talk about as far as training different types of military personnel. But we're just growing, man. It's exciting times for us, and you know, we got a nonprofit that we're getting ready to get out here underway too. So we're trying to do our thing.
Okay, let's get to it. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
My man, you take care.
Thank you so much for watching BWTN Sport. Check out our interview with Junior Jones, and coming soon, very soon, Leo Muhammad. Leo Muhammad, he's going to be on the channel. A couple of other old-time OG greats going to be on the channel as well. See you soon.
My man.
Take care. You know, one of the beautiful things are when your mouse decides to tell you, not today.